Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm obviously in my living room floor. Okay, so this is what we're doing today. So the past month or so, a little bit over a month, has been a lot of things been happening, and I just realized that I never really sat down and made a video on how I got through extern, how I got through my medical assisting externship. Um, Also moved, obviously, new house, new stuff. It's a little crazy around here right now, actually, with Thanksgiving, coming up in a few weeks, and trying to get my house how I want it, especially if company comes over, Anyway, but that's neither here nor there. How I got through extern, and I even have notes so I don't forget anything, or I'm gonna try not to forget anything. Um, First things first, to me, and just let me say, my experience is gonna be probably different from someone out there's experience. This is educational. This is to help people. I realized the more MA videos I've made, I've received a lot of new subscribers and people who have been messaging me saying that they too are also in a medical assisting program or a nursing program, or they're thinking about getting into the medical field. So this is just to help people. If you're willing to listen or you want to learn, I'm here to make videos, okay? And don't judge, okay? Okay, raps are life, okay? So, for me, when I found out that I was placed at the facility that I was working, where I was externing at, I asked to be placed at my site. I went through a medical a medical school to where it was a program, and what you would learn normally within 2 years, they shrunk it down to 8 or 9 months. So I was thinking about extern right around my fourth mod, which was my fourth month of being in school. And you always have to start kind of thinking ahead, especially if you want to be placed somewhere specifically, because there's a whole process. Each place that you apply for is just like a regular job. You have to apply for it. Some people will take you, some people won't. If you don't get your, I want to go here, I want to do this, I want to do this. If you don't get that site, you need a backup site. You need a good 2-3 other backup sites. I'm not kidding, okay? Because some places, they fill up fast. If you want to be at a slower, more slower paced facility that only has 10 people, they may not need 3 other externs. So, I mean, they don't, you just have to think about it like that. But from day one, I wanted to be at this family health center, because they had a floating opportunity, which is, you just float around, literally. You do some stuff over here, go do some stuff over here, backtrack around here. You may be in, family health, go back over here, you're in peds, you're floating everywhere. But then it was explained to me that their floating position was mainly offered to people who work there. So I was like, okay, but this is what they did. They, within 5 weeks, I was assigned to 5 different teams. And I would actually get into more of that later. But anyway, how I prepared for it, I made the drive to my site. I always left an hour early because you have to factor in traffic, weather, if you ever have, if you're ever running late, whatever the case may be. Now, My mom was the one that took my kids to school. My best friend picked them up from school. So, like a couple days before I actually started my externship, I would get up in the morning and I would make that drive. My site was downtown in Michigan. Okay, so downtown it was 30 minutes. And I always left an hour early because not only was it 7 o'clock in the morning, but people are getting their kids to school, people are going to work, and when I hit downtown, there's a train, and I always hope that I did not get stopped by the train. And not only that, it's downtown, buses. So all the buses are leaving and coming in at the same time. So I would always get there around 7:30, 7:45. I am walking into the building. I was always the first person on my team to arrive. Always. I'll be walking into the building. I see other MAs, other nurses, the providers sitting in the parking lot, you know, getting mentally ready. And you do have to get mentally ready for the day because you do not know what's going to happen, you know, once you get started. So always, you know, kind of have like that, give yourself that cushion time, leave earlier. That may mean you have to get up earlier, but when it's your money on the line, like when you get up earlier though, you know what I mean? I don't know. So get up earlier. I always prepped for things the night before, which means I always made my lunch the night before, and I always laid out my clothes the night before, which means I always laid out my shoes, socks, scrub pants, scrub top, and my scrub jacket. I always wore a scrub jacket. I'm anemic. I get cold. In doctor's offices and hospitals, it is cold. I'm always cold. So I always wore my scrub jacket. Scrub jacket, what else? And I would always lay out my watch. Now, my badge, if I had it in when I came in the night before, I would lay it out. But normally I would leave my badge and my stethoscope in the car. You know, it's not going to break. You're not going to hurt your stethoscope if you leave it in the car. You're not going to hurt your badge if you leave it in the car. But I always knew that I'm not going to forget these things because it's already in the car. So I'll always lay out my stuff. If you are a person that takes a lot of time in the bathroom, like doing your makeup, doing your hair, I would always think how I want to do my face the next day. I would always do the bare minimum. Foundation, powder, a little bit of concealer, brows, mascara, that is it. That is it. I also didn't really try to spend too much time in the bathroom because my kids were still sleeping. I did not want to just stand there for a long time or have the kids see the light in the bathroom and think it's time to get up. Just stuff like that. I always tried to be like super quiet. I would go and let my mom know like, hey, I'm leaving. Like, their clothes are laid out, their lunches are made. I already took the dog out. See you later. And I would just always try to be super quiet. What else? So, and with hair, you know, I have a fro. I have braids right now, but I have a fro. I would either just pick my fro out and let the fro fly, or I would slick it back, put on a skull cap, and put on a wig. That was it. Boom, boom, boom. It was either a fro or a wig or the occasional ponytail. And that was it. I wasn't trying to spend a whole lot of time in the bathroom. So if you take a lot of time in the bathroom to get yourself all dolled up or whatever, do you, but keep in mind, like, time is money, like time, you know. Life and sleep schedule is something you really need to figure out. I would get up at 6:15 in the morning. I would get ready. I would leave at 7. Would not get out until 4. Now, I remember for like 2 weeks, my mom took a whole week off of work to watch my kids. The week after that was my first week of extern. The week after that, my husband came up and he stayed for a whole week. So I was there at extern from the time it opened up to the time it closed, like, I was always on it, you know, um, getting in those hours. So if something happens, because like later on, like my fourth week, I was having car trouble. I came in 4 hours late one day. Didn't really bother me because 2 weeks in a row, I stayed from 8 to 9. Like, I had that cushion time, you know. So you just have to be aware, and I would get off at 4, get home at 4:30. You know, my kids will already be there. Then I would have to either wash clothes, cook dinner. Um, Kids didn't really have homework. You know, try to relax, try to get them relaxed, baths, showers, stuff like that, hang out with them, you know. But by the time I get home, I'm tired, I'm done. I am mentally not there. Um, Someone's supposed to be coming over. But anyway, so yeah. And then I would always make sure to be in bed at 10 o'clock. In bed at 10. It takes me, depending on how my day is, like it takes me like 30-ish minutes to fall asleep. If that, sometimes, depending on how exhausted I am. But you will figure out, you will learn your life schedule, your sleep schedule. You know, some people they can function on 5 hours of sleep like it's nothing. You know, some people they need like 8 to 9 hours of sleep, like they need it. So that also depends on you and the type of person you are and how you normally sleep. What else? When I would get there, like I said, I was always the first one there, early, always. Whoever, what, like if I was working there, whoever my boss would be, oh yeah, you're gonna see me. You're gonna see that I'm there early. You're gonna see that I'm there making myself busy, setting up beds, restocking shelves, the cabinets, the tables, cleaning. I'm doing it. I am doing it. You make yourself busy. Even when there's times to where we had like 2 or 3 no-shows in a row, that can be like a hit or a miss. Like sometimes when you don't do anything for an hour, like the rooms are stocked, the rooms are clean, people have been called, you're filing, you're faxing, you're sending things to the lab, but when you have none of that to do for an hour to an hour and a half, and you just sit, you get bored, you get tired, your energy level goes down. At least mine does. I had to find something to do. I'm just like, I go over to people that I don't even know, like, you know, I'm the extern, I'm just bored, what are you doing? Like, can I see what you're doing? Can I shadow you? Whatever. As long as you're just making yourself busy. Always try to be nice, always try to be polite, all that stuff. Always have, oh, my dog. My dog, Boo. Have important numbers, okay? Like I said, I was having car trouble. I was leaving messages to my bosses left and right. Let them know this is what's happening. This is what's happening now. I was always having people constantly in the loop. I never wanted someone to say, "Oh, I haven't heard from her," or I didn't get an email, or I didn't get a phone call, or I didn't see her today. Like, no, you have your connections. You need to reach out to people. You just have to make that communication. Know important numbers. Have them in your phone. Write them down. I always had a notepad with me every day. I always had a notepad. It just, you never know when stuff happens, you know. To deal with your providers, I got along with almost everyone, to be honest. Almost everyone. All the MAs, all the nurses, providers. It was all right. There were some patients that, with patients, it's a hit or a miss. Sometimes they're just, they're funny, they're loud, they're outgoing. Some people are like nervous, they just want to get their stuff done with and get out. Some people are grumpy. It's just, we're a human, you just have to, whatever comes your way, accept it and deal with it in a professional manner. I've had patients, walk out of the office because they wanted me to do something that I could not. That was out of my control. I have done all I could do up until this point, but they want to be mad. That's fine. That's okay. It's some people. It's just, you just have to take what comes. I did have a provider who did not like me from the start. Did not like me. Would say I was doing good and everything, but didn't care for me. And that's okay. It is what it is. I remember this was my mistake. I collected a sample from this patient. It was a urine sample. I put it in the lab. I forgot to tell my provider, because you do it on your extern. When it's busy, it's busy. You have 8 patients, and on your 8th patient, you have to figure out what patient number 2's blood sugar was. Like, it's like that. That's why I always had a notepad. I always wrote down, like their name and whatever it was, like BS, blood sugar. That's how I would do it. I would write it down, and then I would black it out, because HIPAA, you don't want other people to know other people's information, yada, yada, yada. So that's what I would do. And my providers, they would see me do it, and they were fine with me doing that, writing down like initials and then like BS, whatever, and then scribbling it out when I'm done with that patient. But it's crazy sometimes, and I forgot to tell my provider, yes, patient number whatever from 2 hours ago gave us a urine sample, but my provider didn't need it. They didn't need it. And they actually got like up in my face and yelled at me, because it makes them as a provider look bad. That is what they said. Quote, "It looks bad on me." End quote. That's what it was. Now, that provider's head MA pulled me aside and was like, "Don't worry about it. This is how they are. They're very about things. It's nothing against you. We understand you forgot. Moving on." Okay, move on. That's it, move on. But this patient and I, we would get in like roughly around the same time. I would say good morning. They won't say good morning. Their head MA comes in, says good morning, laughing, giggling, talking, and it's like, oh, okay. You just don't care for me. Okay, that's fine. I still say good morning because that's just me. It is what it's about to rain. It's like getting darker. Patience, yeah. Oh, yo. Twice I had these patients who were Middle Eastern, and they spoke Arabic. And I remember it was like these two people, and I knew that this name went with this patient, because I'm looking at everybody else and it's like I would go out. I can see who's there, but this person in particular, I knew it was an air. I guess an Arabic type of name, and I'm like not trying to be like disrespectful, but like even in like the computer system, there's like a feature that you can have that says if someone needs like a language line or like their preferred language, if it's like English or Spanish or French, they have it in there. So I wrote down the name, and I went to this patient. This patient, I know it's this patient, and I said, this is you? Yeah, come on back. Now, it was the patient and the patient's child, but their child was like an adult, so whatever. So, the adult child and I were talking or speaking in English, and then they were translating. And that was pretty cool, I ain't gonna lie. And the patient brought in this bag of medication from wherever they're from, and I'm reading, and everything is in Arabic, and some things I can identify, which was really cool. And the provider that I was working with, I loved her. She was so upbeat, she was so positive, she was like amazing. And I went to her and I was like, this patient, they speak Arabic and they have a child, but the child like is an adult, and we were talking in English and they were translating in Arabic and all that stuff. And when we print out all their paperwork, it was all in Arabic, and I had to highlight important parts. So that was cool. You're gonna meet people from all walks of life, and there was this patient. First of all, this was my bad. And I apologized. I had a patient, and same thing. They were Middle Eastern descent, I guess is how you would say it. And I spent so much time trying to figure out how to pronounce this patient's name, I forgot to look at their age. I called the patient back. A man came with the patient, and I thought the man was the patient's father. No. The man was the patient's husband. Okay. It's frustrating. First of all, if you have a culture to where it's different from American culture, do you? I get it. I understand. However, it's frustrating when I'm trying to ask a patient something specific and someone is answering for them. That's frustrating. And the husband, he was like standing in the middle of the room, and the same distance my phone is from me, that's how close he was. Arms crossed, legs apart, like owning the space. And that made me uncomfortable, because now I was like, I felt like something was gonna pop off. Like, once again, different cultures. You know what I mean? And the patient was just sitting there like calm and quiet. Didn't speak. Did not speak. I'm asking questions. This person is answering. What I should have done, and this is something that I did talk to my provider about, and they said if something like this happens again, this is what I should do. So I should have excused myself, got a language line, and I could have asked that person to leave, which is something you can do. Now you might do different things at different facilities, but this facility I could have done that. I did not, though. So you just have to be aware of different cultures, different backgrounds, and you still have to respect it, even if you don't agree with it. Like me personally, like if I'm going to the doctor and if something hurts or if something isn't right, I am going to tell you. No one else is going to tell you but me, because I'm the one that knows. You know what I mean? But that's how it was. That couple did not like me. The husband did not like me. And he actually requested for a new nurse. I'm not a nurse. I'm a medical assistant, not a nurse. But all right, I get it. I get it. But just to be aware, I hope everyone's experience with extern is fun and amazing, and I always try to keep things fun. I always try to keep things light. I have had patients that had panic attacks and cried and just fall apart, like in front of me, and it's like you still have to keep it together. You still have to be professional. You still have to address things like with caution sometimes. You know what I mean? Especially if someone is like crying, they're having anxiety or a panic attack, and they're just all over the place, their emotions are all over the place. You have to like approach them like calmly and speak to them calmly and all that stuff. So you just have to be aware. Always be early, always be on time. Oh, always have a notebook. Especially if you are going through a program to where you're supposed to get so many hours a day and so many hours a week. Like I said, in my first 2 weeks, I went above my scheduled hours. And something that I would highly recommend is carrying a notebook with you at all times, which is something that I did. All times, I did. And writing down what time you got there and what time you left, and having either the head MA on that team or the provider themselves sign off on it. I did that every single day. I was not trying to have anybody say that I was not there on certain days on certain times. Yes, I was. Yes, I was. I was there. It's just sometimes facilities, they get busy. Depending on your school, sometimes they can try to be slick and dock you for certain times that you did work. And that's what extern is. It is work. It's actual work. You're working with real people. They're real people, real charts. You have to sign real HIPAA sheets saying that you're not gonna tell people's information, yada yada yada. All that stuff. All of that stuff. It is real. It's really real. This dog is laying all up on me. But yeah, like you just do that simple stuff and just remember this is a learning experience. Not everything is going to be fine all the time. You will probably butt heads with a provider or an MA or a nurse or whoever. You may bump heads with people. Just remember that your extern is basically one long interview. That's what it is. Everything that you're doing, you're being watched. You're under a magnifying glass. People see you. People will notice, and people will tell. Figure that out. My second to last day of externing, there was a person who went to, I guess, who would have been my boss, one of my bosses, I guess, one of the supervisors, and said that someone had left and didn't tell anybody and left patients in the room, and the person that they told on got really upset, and of course, because they were lied on, and was crying and all that stuff. And I had to go to that supervisor and say, I know so and so told you what so and so did. That's false, because I was there. Like, if you see stuff like that, maybe you will, maybe you won't. But if you know someone is lying on another person and it's just not right, yo, speak up, speak up, speak up. Because that stuff's not cool. It's not right. That's not going to win you any brownie points with nobody, to lie on somebody else, you know, to give them a bad name or whatever. It's like, there's nothing that you gain from that, you know. So I went to that supervisor and was like, no, that person did leave. I was there to cover everybody. Like, nobody was left behind. And that supervisor was looking at me like, oh, really? Because that's not what I heard. Well, I was here, and the provider that I was working with signed off that I was there. So I'm not lying to you. I got proof, the provider. You know what I mean? But just don't get sucked into that gossip stuff. Don't get sucked up into that he said, she said, yada, yada, yada. And I only had one provider. No, I take that back. I only had two providers who were men. Everybody else were women. Oh my gosh. Some of the stuff that they would talk about, like, talk about each other. And if you notice, I did notice some HIPAA violations, yo. Like, if you see that stuff, tell somebody. For real, tell somebody. Like, you don't have to tell people for, like, every little thing. You don't have to be, like, a little tattletale in, you know, second grade. But stuff like that on who can be told certain information to, if you tell it to the wrong person and you know it's not the patient, don't do that. Like, you don't do that. So be aware of, like, HIPAA violations, and just be interested in everything that's going on. Ask doctors what they're doing. Doctors love it when you ask them what they're doing, because they want to teach, they want to brag, they want to tell you about all their accomplishments. And it's just take it in. Just take it in. Because some of the stuff is interesting. Like, really interesting. But yeah, that's all that I can tell you on how to get through extern, you know, and just breathe and relax. And, you know, it can be overwhelming and it can be stressful. But it's all worth it. You get to know firsthand on, like, how things are. Basically, like, what they taught me in the classroom was nothing compared to what it's like to be out there in the real field. Like, med terms, like, yeah, that was the same. You know, you look in their charts, you see things, and it's like, oh, I know what that is, or I know what that does. But to deal with different people and their struggles and their emotions and their history and all that stuff that you have to go through with people on a day-to-day basis, every day something new. Every day something new. It can be crazy. It really can be crazy. And you just have to just go with it and try to make the best out of it. So that's my video. I'm sorry it was hella long, but that's what it is. So that's how I got through extern, and I hope you guys can take something from this and get through extern too. Bye.